Welcome in, folks. I hope everybody's having a glorious day out there here today. So it was very exciting. About 2 days ago, I hit my 8th stock in the public count that's an active position that hit over a 2x. Yes, Fubo TV joined the long list of Amazon, SoFi, Revolve, Meta, Palantir, Elf, and Tesla with over 100% gains. To start this video, in the comments section, let me know what was your first 2x. I'm really interested to see. I'll be going through the comments. What was your first 2x in your portfolio? I'm going to guess a lot of folks watch this. Probably your first 2x was either Tesla or Palantir, but let me know in the comments section. I thought that would be a fun way to start the video here today. Okay, we've got 5 stocks to get into in this video here today that are non-stop buys for the next 3 months specifically, the next 90 days here. These stocks have major upside over the next 3 years. And these stocks here today, like I looked at kind of these stocks we're going to speak about here today, and I thought, man, like to start a portfolio built around these stocks would be a pretty dang epic portfolio in my opinion over the next many years because of the low probability these stocks will go down over the next 3 years in any substantial way. And the chances a lot of these stocks are going to 2x, 3x, 5x, 10x over this next 3 years as well. So it's going to be a fun action-packed video, and you guys can thank my wife for this video here today, because my wife actually had asked me, should I buy some Palantir stock today? And I told her, you know, I think you should maybe buy some of these sorts of stocks, right? And so that's where I actually came up with the concept of this video here today is what's some stocks I view right now that are great buys, and you just buy these stocks heavily for the next several months here and just add, and just hope these stocks actually go down in the short term so you can just add as many shares as cheaply as possible. So yes, thank you to my wife for today's video idea. Okay, appreciate y'all joining me as always. All I ask in return for today's video is that you guys smash that thumbs up button. I got the sign in my garage. There it is, baby. If you want to hit the subscribe button also, you can certainly do that. We are now over, I believe we're over 800,000 subscribers here on the channel, so I appreciate every single person that's always joining me for these videos. 2 pieces of housekeeping before we get into this one. One, this is my favorite video I did in 2024. If you ever have 52 minutes on your hands, watch that video, okay? If you ever see this thumbnail and you got some time on your hands, trust me, watch that video. It's my favorite video I did in 2024. 16 years of stock market advice in 52 minutes. That's just a straight gem dropper video. So believe me, like everybody I've ever pointed that video to says they love it. Like it was well worth their time. So if you ever get a chance, make sure you guys check out that video. Second piece of housekeeping, if you're looking to apply to my private stock group, take your investing game up to a much higher level than where you're at, learn how to scale your portfolio, then you can click the pinned comment down there, fill out a form. We'll see if we can get you access to all that maybe either this weekend or maybe next week, something like that, okay? Alrighty, guys, let's get into this. First stock of these 5 stocks is Advanced Micro Devices, AMD. Yes, this one's a non-stop buy for the next 90 days. This stock, I believe, will 3x to 5x over the next 3 years. Yes, significant upside I see for AMD in the future. Now, when it comes to AMD, the first full year, Lisa Su, who's a legendary CEO now, because what she's done with this company, like shortly after she took over this company, it was a $2 stock. And today it's a $120 stock. Like what she's done is simply legendary with this company, right? Her first full year of investing, she got out of some product lines. They had to make some major changes and revenue was down substantially. But since that time period, revenue went up 8%, 21%, 23%. Then 2019 was kind of a sleepy year. They only grew revenue 4%. Then 2020, 45%. 2021, 68%, 43% in 2022. Then 2023 revenue actually went down about 4%. And then 2024, we'll see where the numbers shake out here at the end of the year when they report their earnings. But likely the revenue growth are going to be somewhere between about 10 and 15% based upon kind of analyst expectations here, okay? But that is a thing of the past because what we're about to have happen here is go through a next major growth cycle for AMD. What I foresee happening with AMD, looking at their product lineup and looking at their total TAM opportunity in several different end markets over this next few years, is I expect AMD to grow their revenue 25 to 45% per year, every year, all the way out to 2030, okay? So we're talking substantial growth. Now, AMD over the past few years kind of been stagnation of revenues. This is where we're at right now, looking at 1000xstocks.com, our charts feature here. This is where we're at right now, right? And this is what is projected to happen based upon analyst expectations, right? And my expectations are I'm a little more bullish than the average analyst expectation out there. So I'm expecting 25 to 45% growth every year for the next basically like 5 years, okay? So we're about to go through a major growth cycle for AMD, and I've seen a lot of people get out of the stock recently, and I'm like, I don't think this is the right time to be getting out of AMD. I think right now and over this next few months is the time period you need to buy AMD quite significantly. Now, additionally, you look at AMD's earnings per share. This is where we are right now, okay? This is where we are when it comes to earnings per share. And this is where we're projected to go based upon analyst expectations here. Yeah, and once again, I'm even more bullish than where analysts are at. So, the moral of the story is, why would you want to get out of this stock right now when we're about to go through a massive multi-year growth cycle in revenue and earnings per share? It does not make sense. In my opinion, this is a time period to be buying every share in sight when it comes to AMD. Now, people have made a huge mistake in regards to this. I mean, this is a substantial mistake, and it's going to come back to bite a lot of people. And do not fall into this trap. But what people are doing essentially is they're saying AMD is not NVIDIA. They're of this assumption that AMD has to beat NVIDIA, has to be a bigger company, a more successful company, to like be a successful stock. And that's just not how this works at all. AMD does not have to beat NVIDIA. AMD has to be a competitor of NVIDIA and compete hard in the markets, but they don't have to beat NVIDIA. AMD, to be a successful investment, I don't need AMD to become a 4, 6, 8, $10 trillion company. If AMD becomes that, great. I'll gladly welcome that, but I do not need that to happen. Whereas if you're buying NVIDIA stocks, let's say for instance today, you need NVIDIA to be a really successful investment. You need it to go to $6 trillion market cap, 8 trillion, 10 trillion, right? Like some crazy numbers that we've never seen before. I don't need that with AMD. Right? This is not a winner-take-all market. When you look at the TAM opportunity of so many different end markets that AMD's in, and NVIDIA, right? Like, this is not a winner-takes-all. Like, this is a massive growing market, and AMD should be able to grow to become a giant, a much bigger giant than what they are today in the space. And to do that, they don't need to beat NVIDIA, right? I mean, I would love it if they did that, but as an AMD shareholder, I'm not expecting them to ever beat NVIDIA. I'm not expecting them to be a $5, $10 trillion company, right? And the way I would put it to you like this is kind of like, let's imagine the energy drink space, right? You got Celsius Holdings, which that stock's up 1,700% over the past 5 years, right? Monster, meanwhile, very well-established company in the space, is up 61%. It's not like, oh, Celsius won, so Monster lost, or Monster won, so Celsius lost. No, both companies won. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see a similar phenomenon play out in NVIDIA and AMD over the next 3 years, or the next 5 years, we could even say, for instance. I wouldn't be surprised if NVIDIA does fine as a stock, but I wouldn't be surprised if AMD is like that beast opportunity, a much bigger percentage gainer over this next 3 to 5 years. I think AMD is going to blow NVIDIA out of the water as somebody that was an NVIDIA shareholder in the past, right? Made a lot of money on that stock last year, right? I'm completely out of the position now. And the reason being is not because I don't think there's money to be made in NVIDIA. It's definitely possible NVIDIA can grow into a $5 trillion company or even above that, right? But it's just like the big money, when we're talking about that 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x opportunity over this next few years, that's AMD, okay? And this is not a winner-take-all market. There's a ton of expansion opportunity for both of these companies, right? Now, here's the deal, okay? Where do I see AMD stock? Let's say 2030. Let's look to 2030. I believe in AMD currently today, AMD's, we can call it a little under a $200 billion market cap, which that makes AMD a big tech stock. It's just not part of the $1 trillion boys club that, we all think about as Meta, Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, those sorts of companies, right? But in my personal opinion, based upon all the growth I see for AMD over the next few years, I believe this stock price is going to increase dramatically by 2030. And I think there's a pretty good probability that AMD could be a $1 trillion plus company, enjoying that $1 trillion plus crowd of stocks by the year 2030, based upon where I see their revenues going over the coming years, their margins going over the coming years, and their earnings per share going over the coming years. And then thinking about it in terms of buybacks, right? Because as AMD becomes more and more powerful, they bring in more and more money. What they're going to be able to do is then do massive share buybacks, which guess what? That helps your earnings per share. Because what we're going to see for AMD is their net income explode to the upside over this next 5 years, right? And additionally, if they're doing massive share buybacks simultaneously, then they're going to be able to put themselves in a situation where their earnings per share is going to skyrocket because they're going to be taking massive amounts of shares off the market, while their net income's also increasing rapidly, and that's why the earnings per share is going to increase at a much more rapid clip than revenue. So when I talk about 25 to 45% revenue growth per year for the next many, many, many years, right? Just understand the earnings per share growth on the back of that is going to be way more extreme. And not even close, but like way more extreme than how much revenue is going up. So I look at AMD right now and I'm like, this is the biggest gift of a stock. I think this stock right now, trading at where it's trading, we can call it $120 a share. And especially if they continue to sell this one off over this next, 90 days or whatever, I'm buying every share in sight. And I think as 2025 goes along, I think more and more people will start to realize this AMD story is a little more exciting than what they thought it was, right? And then they're going to come to realize, oh boy. And the thing you got to understand about these sorts of stocks is when they start moving, they move rapidly. Rapidly. It's not like you have all this time in the world and it like slowly goes up. This isn't some like dividend value stock. When nvidia moved, it moved so fast that people never even got to jump on the bandwagon, right? Because they were trying to assess, like, is this even a good buying opportunity? Because the stock was going up so rapidly. If you think that can't happen with AMD, I got news for you. That can. I've seen it happen several times with AMD over the years, where it will make a unbelievable move in a very rapid amount of time, and also in 2x, 3x, 4x, like that. And people are all of a sudden trying to wrap their heads around, like, oh my gosh, is this move real? Is it overextended? They start worrying about technicals. What about the RSI of the stock? Oh, but, and it's just like, when it's in that down period, you got to buy and buy and buy and buy. And then you hold on as tight as you can. This is a bull, okay? You hold on as tight as you can and let the stock do his dang thing, okay? So that's my opinion on AMD. That's the first one of these 5 stocks, okay? Alrighty, next one up here. Number 2 of these 5 stocks, that is a buy and don't stop buying, non-stop buy for the next 90 days, is SoFi Technologies. It's a $14 stock here today, right? This one's a buy and don't stop for the next 90 days, in my personal opinion. Now, SoFi, by the way, think of it as new age bank, right? They're not branch focused like all the old traditional banks, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Bank of America, those sorts of ones, right? Digital focused, really, really successful with capturing the millennial generation, Gen Z, and I think they're the most well-positioned bank to end up capturing Gen Alpha over time. But additionally, if we think about them as a fintech play, they're also a fintech play heavy as well. So think about this as kind of half new age bank, think of it the other half as fintech. Okay, very important to understand that. So they're going to be incredibly asset light compared to traditional banks, which ultimately, in my opinion, is going to make SoFi far more profitable and put the business model into far better margins long term than any of these old traditional banks ever have seen. Okay, like numbers that you could only dreamt of. Now, when it comes to SoFi, right? I've been on this one since last year, right? I was buying the stock heavily in 2024. It was a great opportunity, and now I've reaped the rewards up 100+% on this particular stock, right? This was a stock I featured in this particular video here, 3 high potential stocks. It was $8 at that particular time. But the thing you got to understand, right, is it's like you could look at this and you'd be like, I missed it, man. Like, it's already doubled up. Like, I should have bought it 2, 3, 4 months ago, 5 months ago, 6 months ago, when it was $8 a share, $7 a share. Didn't it get down to $6 a share at one point, right? Like right here, you could have made an argument that it was high because it was up to $8 a share, right? By the way, look at this here. Palantir at that time was $40. Look at this. ELF was $101 at that particular time, right? But just because the stock doubles, it doesn't mean the opportunity's over. And especially when it comes to growth companies, and especially when it comes to beaten down dog stocks, which what SoFi was for the longest time. It was a beaten down dog stock, right? The way I'll put it to you like this, right? Tesla, my cost basis in the public counts like $13.50 on those shares, right? So imagine you find Tesla, and it's after I already doubled my money on that, and Tesla was $27 a share. Wouldn't you love to have been buying Tesla at $27 a share? This is why just looking at it from a simple standpoint of like, oh, it doubled, oh, it went up a lot, is bad. No different than nvidia. Nvidia stock, if you look at those 2022 lows, it did the first then double up in early 2023, right? So it does a quick 2x there. And you could have said, that's it. Like, it's not a deal. Okay, after that, NVIDIA then like 10x. Okay, so like, you could have said, oh, after the first double, that was it. And like, it's a ripoff now. It's not a good deal. And then the stock goes to 10x. So Don't run into this false assumption where, oh, if a stock goes up a lot, it means it's not a deal anymore or something like that. It's not how it works, man. You got to look at the valuation of the company. Now, you want to see one of the most beautiful charts you'll ever see for a stock? Let me show you. Look at this. This is SoFi's masterpiece of revenue on a trailing 12-month basis over time, right? Is that not a masterpiece? I mean, it's beautiful. And this is what is expected to happen for the company over the next many quarters on a trailing 12-month basis for revenue. It's a masterpiece, man. I mean, that's what Anthony Noto is doing with this company. And you've got to understand, the banking system's been a little messy over the past few years. And the reason being is the Federal Reserve raised rates at the most rapid clip we really have ever seen on a percentage basis, right? And so it's been kind of a messy time for a lot of the banks, especially a lot of the smaller banks, regional banks, those sorts of plays. It's been messy. And yet SoFi's weathered the storm. We had the whole student loan situation where, people didn't have to pay back their loans for a given time, and that hurt the refinancing business. SoFi, you had so many negative things that were thrown at SoFi over the past few years. And Anthony Noto, who, remember, he's got good experience from Goldman Sachs, right? He used to be the CFO of the NFL. He used to be very high-ranking executive at Twitter back in the day when Twitter was, really successful way back then, right? This man's got a lot of experience, and he's weathered a lot of storms, and he got SoFi through this mess. And, the thing with Anthony Noto is he's the type of guy that I think he could be the CEO of a lot of public companies. Like, I think if Anthony Noto wanted to hop off the SoFi train and go be the CEO of another top company, he could anytime he wants. Like literally, Anthony Noto is like a prized possession. No joke. He's a prized possession. When you got Goldman Sachs experience, when you've been the CFO of the NFL, this man is like, I can tell you, a prized possession. And so the fact that he sticks around at SoFi and wants to keep leading this company year after year has to tell you something about the opportunity SoFi has long term. Let that sink in for a moment, because I don't think a lot of people have ever really thought about that in depth before, okay? No, additionally, this is where we're at right now on a trailing 12-month earnings per share. The flip has happened. What is the flip? The flip is when a company goes from massive losses to profitability, into making money. That has now happened for SoFi. So now the question is, there used to be a question with SoFi is, when are they ever going to make money? When are they ever going to make a profit, right? When are they ever going to have positive EPS? That's no longer the question. Now the question around SoFi is, how profitable can this company get? How many billions could they start making per year? That's a very different, let's call it perspective versus when are they ever going to turn profitable? Now, here's where SoFi's headed long term, in my opinion. As long as Anthony Noto keeps leading this company over this next 10, 20 years and gets them through any storms that the company has thrown at it, recessions, all those sorts of things. Because you got to understand, the banking system, a lot of it's just getting through recessions, getting through ugly times, and getting out to the good times, right? And then acquiring assets for cheap prices when they go bankrupt in the banking space. And that's how, if you look at JP Morgan's history, Bank of America, any of these big dogs, that's how they got to this place. Like, they just found ways to weather the storms, and then when other banks went under, when you had financial crises, when you had recessions, they were able to pick up those assets for pennies on the dollar and get bigger and stronger and stronger. And that's why we have a banking system now that a lot of people call, it's too big to fail. Because Fed won't even let these guys fail because they're so big and so powerful now. That's how it happens. And that's where I could see SoFi going over this next 10, 20 years and getting to this sort of list where, there are several $100 billion type market cap, right? Which is, a long way from where they're at today. Like, they're, probably a 15 billion-ish, somewhere in that ballpark market cap versus, we're going to be talking about this company hundreds of billions, if we look 10, 20 years out. So, yeah, extraordinary opportunity in SoFi. Are we ready to get into number 3 of 5 here? So this third stock of these 5 is a pretty exciting one because I don't just view this as I'm going to buy the stock every share I can get my hands on the next 90 days. But additionally, this stock I'm going to likely be buying shares nonstop for the entire 2025. Because even when this stock keeps going up more and more and more, which it's already started to go up, I'm going to keep buying shares. And that stock is, and this is a pretty special opportunity, the Cheesecake Factory. You're not going to hear this stock really talked about anywhere outside of meat, right? But this stock has been moving up and moving up and moving up, and I really don't see that stopping anytime for the next many years, okay? Now, of course, I'll have short-term dips here and there, but at the end of the day, every dip will get bought because people like me realize how big of an opportunity this is. This is a buy heavy for years. And, you don't want to be afraid to average up on this one. I've been averaging up and averaging up and averaging up on cheesecake, and I'm not planning on stopping because the opportunity is so massive here that when I look back at this, I think 5 or 10 years from now, I'll look back and I'll be like, thank goodness I kept averaging up. Because, and that sometimes you get a stock to start going up and you start getting afraid to keep buying it, right? If it's truly a great company, you keep buying that stock and you keep buying that stock, right? Now, when it comes to cheesecake, what makes the company really special and such an extraordinary opportunity is not the Cheesecake Factory concept. That's obviously super famous, super successful, straight ATM, busy as heck, big numbers, boom. We know what that is. It's these two concepts right here. And then it's all the concepts coming behind it that have huge potential as well. But the main thing, if I'm thinking over this next 5-10 years, this is it. North Italia and Flower Child. They've got two concepts that are going to be rolled out across the entire United States of America, multiple locations in every major city out there. And these two opportunities are way bigger combined than the Cheesecake Factory concept is, in my opinion. It's not even really close. Now, to make this even more interesting is you look at cake versus like Chipotle versus Shake Shack, which Chipotle and Shake Shack, in my opinion, their biggest growth days are done. That does not mean Shake Shack's going to stop growing. That does not mean Chipotle's going to stop growing, right? It's just like, in my opinion, like looking at North Italia and Flower Child, how early days those two concepts are compared to Chipotle and Shake Shack, it's not even close. Like, they have so much more growth ahead. But when you look at this company, it trades at a 13 forward P. That's not even a market multiple. That's not even a market multiple this company's getting, which is just crazy disrespect. This company has so much room for valuation upside over the next few years. It's insane. That's versus Chipotle, which trades at a 45 forward P and 127 for Shake Shack. People are going to wake up one day and realize, oh my gosh, Cheesecake was like the most insane opportunity. Like, how did we not take advantage of this, right? And you got thing you got to understand about these concepts. People love them. It's not like they build these and like, they're half full and like people are kind of like iffy about them. No. Look at reviews across the United States, and what you'll find is nothing but 4 and 4.5 stars for all these concepts. And as somebody that loves food myself and is very judgmental of good food versus bad food, I rank these places very high. And something that led me to stock is really going to these concepts before I was a shareholder and realizing, oh my gosh, like this is pretty this is pretty special, right? Flower Child, this is our location in Vegas and Summerlin, 4.6 stars there. They just opened one in Henderson, that's already got 4.6 stars, right? Yeah, the restaurant business is a hard business, and to be consistently commanding 4s and 4.5s across the board throughout the United States is pretty darn special. And you can look up North Italia and Flower Child concepts, and you'll see nothing but that, right? So here's what's going to play out in regards to Cheesecake Factory, right? And here's what makes the stock so special. Over this next decade, over this next 10 years, we're going to see the revenue continue to fly higher and higher year after year after year, right? Outside of any like once in 100-year health events or like insane economic recessions, you'll see the revenue go up and up and up because they have so many locations to build out over this next few years. And then as they ramp those locations, like North Italia and Flower Child, they're going to do bigger and bigger volumes as they are more well-known in different markets, right? The earnings per share will continue to skyrocket at a much more rapid clip than the revenues. And the reason being is North Italia and Flower Child are set up to actually be, in my opinion, much better margins. And also kind of hearing what I'm hearing from the management team, they're set up to be much better margin profiles than actually the Cheesecake Factory concept, right? So earnings per share is going to skyrocket over this next 10 years. You're going to see the dividends year after year after year probably likely be up, in my opinion. I think we'll see an up in 2025, then another up in 26, and it just keeps going, right? So the amount of dividend money I'm making in 2024 in Cheesecake Factory stock is actually a very small amount, in my opinion, compared to if we fast forward 5 years in the future, 10 years in the future. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if someday I'm making like tens of thousands of dollars every year just from Cheesecake Factory stock paying me dividends. Tens of thousands of dollars a year, right? And the balance sheet should just continue to strengthen and strengthen and strengthen over this next 10 years as the profits just continue to pour in bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So the moral of the story is Cheesecake, you're not going to hear it talked about a lot. You're not going to hear it talked about on CNBC, but I wouldn't be surprised if that changes immensely. Remember, there was a time period when Palantir wasn't talked about very much, and now it seems like every day I turn on CNBC, just today, I turned on CNBC, and right near the top of the show I was watching, I think it was a Closing Bell or whatever, right? They were talking about Palantir, like, things change. And so Cheesecake, a stock that doesn't get much time and attention, but as the numbers build out bigger and bigger over the coming years, as that stock rises more and more, it's going to be impossible to deny. It's going to be impossible to not pay attention to, and it's going to get more publicity. I wouldn't be surprised if eventually over time it gets in the S&P 500, more indexes, boom, boom, boom. It's a party, baby. Okay, already fourth stock of these 5 stocks, and this is actually 4 and 4.5 before we get into number 5. Okay, this is actually a 2 stock I got for you here. These are 2 stocks that have done me tremendously well over time. One is ELF, right, 1,600% gain, and then 4.5 is Meta. Okay. So when it comes to these 2 stocks, I got to be honest, they're still such a easy money buy over this next 90 days. And you still just want to continue to buy these shares. Meta, right? Here's some numbers around Meta. Meta should easily be able to grow 15% revenue per year over the next 4 years, okay? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Like 2025, they should be closer to 20% revenue growth. So 15% is pretty darn low. In net income growth should be somewhere around 20% because that should nicely outstrip revenue there, right? And obviously Meta should be able to do big buybacks as well, which obviously helps the earnings per share. No, PE range, if you've got a company growing 15% top line, 20% bottom line, it's got a stable of business models the way Meta does, 30 to 40 PE is pretty fair for that, which means this stock should 2x in 2025 or 2026. And that's exactly what I see play out. I think this stock will likely 2x in the next 2 years. I'm going to get another 2x here. So my position sizing in the public account will go from, it's around a little over $1 million position right now. And it's basically going to grow to about 2 million, in my opinion, over the next 24 months or so. And then we got another 2x coming from Meta somewhere around 2029, 2030, in my opinion, right? And so Meta remains just a great buy. Like, I know it's gone up so much, and I know people look back and be like, oh, I wish I was buying it when it was $100 back in 2022. You should have been, but you didn't. But that doesn't mean it's not still an opportunity, right? Because all that matters is what's going to happen for Meta over the next several years. And so based upon my numbers here, like, I think there's a lot more upside in the stock. And don't be surprised if, you look in 2026, 2027, and this is a stock that has a 1 in front of it. It's $1,000-something stock, right? Now, I believe I also spoke about Meta in this video here. I'm not sure if you guys got to see this one. It's a little over a month-old video here. 6 stocks to buy now, or to buy and hold forever, right? Never sell these types of stock. If I recall, I had Meta as one of those 6 stocks in that particular video. So if you never got a chance to see that, you might want to check out that video at some point in time, okay? Now, when it comes to ELF, we can call it number 4.5 here, right? ELF, I mean, look at the revenue growth of this company on a trailing 12-month basis over time. It's been extraordinary, right? And the magic thing about ELF is, as I've been telling you guys for the last, 6 years now, right? Shout out to anybody that's been watching me for 6 years now, right? What makes ELF special is a few things. One, their products are super high quality. They're loved by their consumers. 2, the products are extremely affordable. You could look on Amazon right now if you wanted to and type in ELF products, and you're going to find many of their products, almost all of their products are under $20, but a huge majority of them are under $10. So they make high quality products, super cheap price points. They're needs based, right? Like makeup, skincare, like people don't just neglect that. Like they're going to keep buying that sort of stuff, right? Especially when it's cheap prices. And so that makes ELF just an extraordinary company. And the fourth kind of thing here is marketing. They understand marketing on the highest level of anybody in the makeup and beauty space. They go viral with products all the time. They're huge on TikTok. They're huge on Instagram. They're big on YouTube. They get it. They really get it on the marketing side. And so it's a very special company, and you're going to see this company expand all over the world, in my opinion, over the next 5-10 years, which long-term, the international revenue is going to dwarf the U.S. revenue. How do I know that? Well, because their products go viral all over the world, they're going to be able to enter markets and be very successful very early on. How else do I know that? Well, last time I checked, there's a lot more people that live outside the United States of America than inside the United States of America. So don't be surprised if long-term ELF gets about 70 to 80% of their revenue from international, and we can call it 20 to 30% from U.S., right? That's not going to flip tomorrow, but you'll see that over the next, we can call it 5 to 10 years, essentially, okay? Now, additionally, 2025, 2026, it's a story all around net margin, earnings per share. The revenue is exciting, and all the revenue growth we've had over the years and what's going to be coming. And by the way, it's funny, analysts are doubting this company over this next few quarters. Analysts always do this. They start doubting ELF, and then ELF always comes in and smashes their numbers. Like, literally, you can look at ELF's, and I've showed this in videos in the past, right? how much they come in and beat analyst expectations for, analysts always end up doubting ELF. They like start doubting it, like, oh, we don't think the revenue is going to be this. We don't think the earnings per share is going to be this, blah, blah, blah. And then ELF comes in and just smashes it. It's almost hilarious at this point in time to watch it all play out. So maybe this is a one-time analyst will be right. Probably not. They'll probably be wrong again. ELF's probably going to keep growing, right? And then they're going to be like, oh, man, you know. And then they'll doubt them again another year or two from now. But the story, in my opinion, for ELF is really around net margin and earnings per share, right? And the focus really for ELF over the past few years has just been market share and revenue. And I think over this next few years, it's really a story about net margin and earnings per share. Additionally, the balance sheet just continues to strengthen more and more for ELF. And as long as their revenues and earnings per share keep building out the way they're building out, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't, right? And Terang, the CEO of the company, I mean, what a job he's done. He took the, you know, when I was buying the stock, it was like a $7 stock, right? And he's taking this company from being like almost in the gulag. Like it was almost a gulag stock, right? When you're 7, you're not that far from being 5 or under. Like they almost went to the gulag. And he took this company, right? And built them into an absolute juggernaut. And obviously he's not the only person on the team. It's just, you know, it starts with the big dog, right? And he built this company into a juggernaut that it is today, where every single major cosmetics brand looks to ELF as kind of like a guiding light, even though they sell the cheap, inexpensive products, right? And so, very, very, very special company. Your stock price doesn't go up 1,600% by accident, right? And so, and don't be surprised if ELF someday says 3,000% gain for me or 5,000% gain for me, right? Special companies do special things, and they keep executing on a high level. More and more people accept it, recognize it, and also want to invest. And so and remember, the last thing I'll leave you here with in regards to ELF before we get to the last stock here. Remember, ELF is still relatively small in the cosmetic space. When you look at the biggest giants in terms of market capitalization, right, in the cosmetic space, we're talking about companies that have tens of billions of dollars in market cap or hundreds of billions of dollars in market cap, right? ELF's still a little guy in the space. They're like a $7-ish billion market cap, somewhere around there roughly, right? Even with all their success, they still got such a long runway of growth ahead, man. And so, you know, ELF on a shelf, very special company, and that's just one. At the end of the day, you got to understand every dip in ELF for the past many, many years has been a buying opportunity, and I think it remains that. Fifth stock of these 5 stocks up here that you want to buy nonstop for the next 90 days is Nike. The death of Nike has been greatly exaggerated. Oh, it's been greatly exaggerated. And this stock is a nonstop buy for the next 90 days. I've been buying this stock rapidly, and I'm not planning on stopping anytime soon. Now, I spoke about Nike so much recently, I don't really feel like speaking about it much anymore. It's just like kind of get burnt out talking about a stock. But for the last like 3 or 4 weeks, I've just been talking about Nike, right? And I did a video even 2 weeks ago called Nike Stock is Easy Money. I think, you know, investors that load the boat on Nike over this next few months are going to be rewarded very handsomely over the next 2, 3, 4 years, right? Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe this is a one-time Nike will be down for the count, never come back. I think, you know, Nike's been counted out many times in the last 4 decades, and every single time they come back stronger, better than ever before. And I think that's exactly what we're going to see play out. But anyways, if you want to hear me talk more about Nike, you can certainly watch that video. Nike Stock is Easy Money, as well as many of the other recent videos, because I talked about Nike a lot recently, okay? Appreciate everybody joining me as always. Thank you so much for being here. If you're looking to take your investing game up to a much higher level than where you're at, get access to my Become Master Stock Market Course, Millionaire Playbook, Stock Options Mastery, Dividend Investing Mastery, Financial Statements Mastery. Get access to my $3 million plus Fidelity account, where you get to see the moves I make every week in there, right? Access to the all amazing research platform, which is 1000xstocks.com. Pin comment down there, click on that, fill out a form. We'll see if we can get you access to that maybe in the next week or two. Much love and have a great day.